Welcome to the Saturday edition of KMNH.
Welcome to KMNH, Kids Making the News Happen. I'm Malcolm, and on tonight's broadcast, we cover everything from giant robots to in-home drones. On Thursday, the Cincinnati Public School Board reversed their course on their decision to return students to the classroom using a blended learning model. This, after Ohio Governor Mike DeWine announced a change in the status of Hamilton County from orange to red on the Ohio Public Health Advisory Map, indicating an increasing threat of exposure and spread of COVID-19. This decision should come as a relief to Cincinnati School Board member Mike Moroski, who was the lone member to vote no on the plan to move to the blended learning model. Mike spoke candidly about his vote in an interview that first aired on KMNH on Wednesday, September 23rd.
With the upcoming flu season and not knowing how this coronavirus and COVID-19 is going to interact with the flu, and not knowing what putting a lot of people inside of a building during flu season will do to the COVID numbers, I couldn't in good conscience vote to say, yes, I think students and adults should be back in the buildings.
Reached for comment, Mr. Moroski provided KMNH with the following statement. I am grateful to the superintendent and her team for being so nimble in reversing the decision so that we can prioritize our students' and family safety. I am confident we will continue to follow the science and do what is best for public health so that our students can learn in a safe environment. As you all know, I had serious reservations about the blended learning option, but I was prepared to make it work. Now I'm prepared to make virtual learning even better. It looks like for the foreseeable future, CPS students will remain at home and continue learning remotely and safely. The home security company Ring just took to the air, according to its parent company Amazon, as they released a first in-home drone security system. This device will fly around the inside of your house with a camera to alert you of any unwanted visitors. It will record video and broadcast it to the owner's smartphones. The product is called Always at Home Cam, and you can set a flight path that best protects you. The designers have promised that it's safe and private and will change the world of home security.
This week, Happens Teen Movie Club watched A Quiet Place directed by John Krasinski, who is both an actor and a filmmaker. You might have seen him in a few movies, over 30 movies actually, and a little TV show called The Office. Or you might have seen his new show called Some Good News, which we love here at KMNH. A Quiet Place was released in 2018 and was made for $17 million and has now grossed over $340 million. So you guessed it, they just made the sequel and you're not going to believe what they named it, A Quiet Place 2. Do you think they are going to take a chance at messing up a good thing? Happens Movie Club is going to watch and review A Quiet Place 2 in 2 weeks. But for now, let's see what the critics has to say about this movie. Make sure to watch KMNH for the next Teen Movie Club reviews.
Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been difficult to get the movie club back together because of the social distancing. I'm one of the teen critics, and we tried to watch movies separately at our individual homes, but half of the fun is watching the movie together. So last week, we had our first outdoor movie club at the Happen Outside Urban Nature and Art Center. Everyone wore masks and practiced social distancing. It was a great night to watch a movie under the stars, and we get to review the movies we watch on KMNH.
A Quiet Place was a great movie. It's a particularly great movie for the deaf community because most of the dialogue was in American Sign Language with subtitles for viewers who don't sign. Director John Krasinski did a great job with this movie, and I can't wait to see the sequel. Definitely not the most sound world building coming from the movie at first, and the beginning feels weak without a lot of intense moments or action, but it makes up for a lot of it in the last half with great scenes with better tension than in the beginning. All in all though, a really nice atmospheric movie, and I would definitely recommend it. 5 stars. In 2014, a new attraction began production in Yokohama, Japan, and is finally expected to open later this year. According to KCCI.com, the attraction is a 59-foot tall, 24-ton humanoid robot based off of designs from the late 1970s anime Mobile Suit Gundam. The robot can move, although extremely slowly, and has partial use of its arms and legs, all made from carbon fiber reinforced plastic. Over 6 years in the making, it was supposed to open in October of this year, but has been delayed to within the year, according to Gundam Factory Yokohama, which is where the attraction is located.
Happen Inc. has figured out a way to continue their 13-year-old pumpkin party tradition. That's right, Happen will be continuing the annual free pumpkin carving celebration on Saturday, October 24th. But the event will look a little different this year. The party will still include a free pumpkin cleaned and prepared by Happen team volunteers, and Happen will still provide the kids-safe carving tools for you to create your own jack-o'-lantern. But the big change this year is that the party will take place outdoors at the Happen Outside Urban Nature and Art Center at 1617 Hoffner Street. Also new this year is the requirement to make a reservation in order to attend. Having a reservation means your family will have a designated area in the garden for your visit in order to meet social distancing guidelines. Mask and temperature checks will also be required. Please go to happeninc.org for more information or to make a reservation. Space is limited and you don't want to miss this Happen family tradition.
Welcome to another KMNH, Kids Making the News Happen Community Spotlight. Toby brings us the story of a longtime Northside neighbor who will soon be leaving the community. But before she moves, Toby had a chance to catch up with her and talk about the neighborhood.
I'm sure you heard the saying, always make sure you leave a place in better condition than when you arrived. And Heather Sturgill is the best example of that saying. Heather has done so much for Happen, our teens, and the entire community. We wanted to interview her so you can see how much she cares for other people and how one person can make a difference. She is always full of life and working on projects to make our community better. You will see there is nothing that can slow down Miss Heather. Welcome to KMNH and thank you for being on broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
How long have you lived in Northside?
23 years.
Why did you move to Northside?
I've moved to Northside because of the wonderful people. And they introduced me to this lovely neighborhood that was so diverse.
What are some things that you really enjoy about living in Northside?
The people. I love the people here. So often, people nowadays sit behind their computer and keyboard cowboys and, oh, life is so horrible. That's bad. Somebody should do something about that. And Northsiders, they don't do that. They see something going wrong or something bad, they go out and try to fix it.
What are some of the challenges of living in Northside and what can be done to make it a better place to live?
There are two challenges in Northside that I see, and both have to do with housing. One is lack of accessible housing. So when people age into disability or they have an accident and end up with a disability, there aren't that many places for them to live. So we lose wonderful people from the neighborhood. I was lucky enough that I have the resources to make my house accessible, but many do not. The other is that we are losing all the people that have worked to make this community so much better. It's become a desirable place to live, and because of that, housing prices have increased, and we're losing a lot of that diversity as far as economic diversity, and the city, the people that want to help don't have the tools to that could help, like inclusionary zoning ordinance. Even though those tools have been recommended in several of the comprehensive plans by the city, they've never been adopted. So the people that want to make things better here don't have the tools they need to help people, to help keep our economic diversity.
What are some of the community accomplishments that you are most proud of?
We had a Northside Celebrates voting event For 2 years, I organized it. And we had candidates and representatives of issues come out, and being an informed voter is one of the foundations for a good democracy. And having the diversity that we have in the neighborhood, having wonderful discussions, and learning the issues, I was very proud to help build on that here in the neighborhood. There's some other things that I've done, but I think that's the biggest thing that I'm proud of.
What's the biggest change that you have seen in Northside?
We used to have an abandoned factory and a huge lumber yard on the corner of Hamilton and Blue Rock, and the factory was converted into housing with businesses underneath, and the lumber yard now has a new building and with houses above it and businesses underneath, and that's the biggest obvious change in the neighborhood.
Can you tell us where you're moving to?
I'm moving to Troy, Ohio. It's about an hour and a half north of here, about half an hour north of Dayton.
What advice do you have for our Happen teens?
The advice I have for Happen teens is that they get involved in the community, that they meet as many people as they can from as diverse a background as they can, and be tolerant of each other and tolerant of other ideas, and learn about other ideas and other ways of life, and explore the neighborhood, the people, and the surroundings.
Thank you so much for being on KMNH.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to miss Miss Heather. She is an inspiration, always with a smile, always finding new ways to solve problems, always excited about life, always caring, always listening, and always a friend.
Some movies can be way out there, and I'm not just talking about the story, the actors, the costumes, or even the music. I'm talking way out there, as in the filming location. Soon director Doug Liman and actor Tom Cruise will be filming on the International Space Station. Thanks to Elon Musk and SpaceX, this will be the first major movie ever shot in space. They are set to launch 1 year from now. The movie does not have a title or details, but we can only imagine it'll be out of this world.
That's it for tonight's KMNH News. Stay tuned for a KMNH Extra featuring the full Community Spotlight interview with Hedger Sturgill.
When I originally lived here, I lived in a house that was entirely inaccessible. And I was working as a hairstylist at a salon in Mount Lookout. And at 28 years old, I was on my way to work when a car ran into the side of the vehicle that I was driving. Because we don't have decent public transportation, but that's another story, and ended up in a wheelchair, and I was afraid that I was going to have to leave the community, and I was so heartbroken at that idea, because there aren't that many accessible units here, and I was lucky enough to find a different location. But that changed my focus, and I wanted to make things more accessible. I had found out about a program at UC's College of DAP, Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning, and planning was the program, and I wanted to make my community more accessible. So after getting out of rehab, which at the time when I was released from Drake Hospital, I couldn't even touch my nose. And 2 years later, we had moved from our house on Florida Avenue to a house on Hamilton Avenue so that I could get in and out. And I started school, or went back to college, and got my bachelor's degree, and spent 3 months living in Washington, D.C., working with the Department of Health and Human Services on emergency planning for people with accessibility needs. And I brought that knowledge back and was recruited to get my master's degree in community planning. And as part of that, I did an internship in Sacramento, California for 3 months, and worked on issues of accessibility there and housing, and brought that knowledge back with me, and I've worked as a private contractor since, addressing barriers to community living, because there are quite a few barriers to community living, and not just for accessibility, but there's economic barriers, and there's racial prejudices, and there's lack of employment, and lack of equity in employment and salaries and wages, and there's wonderful places to get involved and make the community and the world better. And with that, I got on the board of Housing Opportunities Made Equal, and have been their president for a few years. And Housing Opportunities Made Equal addresses discrimination in housing, whether it's rental housing or trying to buy it, or the financing and the process of it. There's issues with racial prejudice, there's issues with prejudice against people with various disabilities, sources of income, there's sexual discrimination, issues with prejudice against single parents and children, against people that are aging, and they address that on a regional level. So I've been proud to serve helping them. I was also on the I was the chair of the Cincinnati Accessibility Board of Advisors, and that was an appointment by the mayor of Cincinnati, and accepted by the Cincinnati City Council to that position and onto that board, where I work with wonderful people, making the city more accessible, whether that's transportation or housing or employment, or just accessing the website, or being able to literally be heard in a city council meeting, because there weren't people that did sign language, and now we have interpreters on as part of presentations on the news if there's an emergency, and there's interpreters that they can have during council meetings so that they can speak and be heard and hear visually. So making the community better that way. There's Greater Cincinnati Community Reinvestment Coalition that is working on issues of access to financial resources and lending and fair lending. Because of redlining, people weren't able to get loans for houses or to improve their homes, and there's still racial discrimination in loans and business loans. And so there's a group that's working on that, and I was proud to help out with that for a while. And Home Think Tank, which is through the, it's a group of advocates that work on getting housing that's not just accessible, but is affordable for people with disabilities, because many people with disabilities have incomes at below, sorry for the sirens, but many people with disabilities have incomes below 15% of the area median income. And so finding units that are accessible and affordable and available at that income level is almost impossible. As you grow and if you become a reporter, explore all of those things and help make the world a better place. One of the other projects that I've worked on in the neighborhood has been when we lost our grocery store. The neighborhood came together to address one of those challenges that I spoke about earlier. The keyboard cowboys at home that see something that somebody else needs to take care of that. Northsiders, they see that we lost our grocery store, and they jumped in to try to fix it, and I was one of the ones that jumped in along with many others in the neighborhood. And we started working on it about 5 or 6 years ago at this point. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, but the whole goal of the grocery store is not just to provide groceries in the neighborhood, but it has the opportunity for workforce development. The workers get trained if they want to become an owner. It's a worker and community-owned grocery store, and if the workers say that they want to be an owner, they start getting training immediately on how to run a business, how to read the budgets and the financial statements, how to do customer and community relations and marketing, and things that usually require a degree. And in this instance, they're getting this training as part of working, from the part-time cart pusher to a manager. So it helps build community from the ground up. And so it's not just a place to get food. It's a place that builds community. So there's another location that we're working towards right now. And even from a distance, I'm going to be working towards it. There's another example of it called Gem City Market in Dayton, and it'll be closer, so I'll probably be shopping there. But they're helping each other grow, and we taught them, and they're going to teach us, and hopefully we'll have a grocery store in the neighborhood when I come back. Just that this program and Happen are amazing resources for the community, and I'm going to miss it terribly when I leave. But I look forward to hearing about all the wonderful things that the teens here that have graduated through the ranks of all of the programs that Happen has done. I look forward to maybe seeing you on Broadcast News Network, or seeing that someone else is running for president, that came from this neighborhood. I have confidence that one of the kids from Happen will be a future leader of the nation.